deny zoning map amendment requests. Per Title VI, Chapter 29 of the SC Code of Laws, Planning Commission may also prepare and revise plans and programs for the development or redevelopment of unincorporated portions of the county. The County Land Development Code rewrite process conducted last year, council's looking at it now, is an example of this. Once again, we are recommending body to county council, and they will conduct their own public hearing and take official votes to approve or deny map amendments and text amendments on a future date to be published by the county. Council typically holds zoning public hearings on the fourth Tuesday of the month, so please check the county's website for updated agendas, dates, and times. Please take note of the following guidelines for today's meeting. Please turn off or silence any cell phones. Audience members may quietly come and go as needed. Applicants are allowed up to 2 minutes to make statements. Citizens signed up to speak are allowed up to 2 minutes each. Redundant comments should be minimized. Please only address remarks to the commission and do not expect the commission to respond to questions from the speaker in a back and forth style. That is not the purpose of this meeting. Please no audience speaker exchanges. No audience demonstrations or other disruptions to the meeting are permitted, nor are comments from any other than the speaker at the podium. Please remember the meeting is being recorded. Please speak into the microphone and give your name and address. Abuse of language is inappropriate and will not be tolerated. Please don't voice displeasure or frustration at a recommendation while the Planning Commission is still conducting business. If you have any questions or concerns, you may contact Richland County Planning Department staff. We're going to move on to number 3 on our agenda today, which is additions or deletions to the agenda. Are there any motions for additions or deletions, revisions, staff?
Yes, sir. I have 3, additions to the agenda or revisions to the agenda. Under item 4, which is the approval of the minutes, is listed, but what wasn't specifically placed there was that it was for the September 7th, 2023, but you all did receive your minutes. So that specifies which business will be up for approval. Also, we have the deferral of cases, which would be item 5B4, which is case number 23-033MA, Kelly Spears Road to General Commercial, off of Lib Lucas Road. And also for case number 5, case number 23-034MA. Again, that's also Kelly Spears going from Road to General Commercial off of Lib Lucas Road. So we have 2 requests for deferrals for those 2 cases.
Thank you, staff. Do we go ahead and take a motion for approval to update our agenda?
Yes.
Okay. With that said, commissioners, we're looking for a motion to approve the agenda with making the changes of adding the dates to the minutes that we received, September 7th, 2023, and removing cases 4 and 5 as deferred from agenda number 5B, 4 and 5.
So move.
Thank you. Second. With that, we have a second, and we'll now take a vote, please, staff.
All right, those in favor of the additions, deletions to the agenda, Yonke,
Aye.
Johnson, Dennis, Metz,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Serks,
Aye.
Grady.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you, staff. With that, we can move on to number 4, which is the approval of the minutes from September 7th, 2023's meeting. Do any commissioners have any comments or concerns regarding these transcripts? Hearing none, the chair makes a motion to approve the minutes. Unless there's an objection, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. With the motion and the second to approve the minutes, may we have a vote, please?
All right, motion for approval of the minutes. Yonke,
Aye.
Johnson. Metz. Durant,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Sirks,
Aye.
Grady.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you again, staff. We are now going to move on to number 5, our consent agenda. The consent agenda is an action item that allows the commission to approve road names and map amendment requests where either the staff recommends approval, no one from the public has signed up to speak against the amendment, or no member of the commission is in need of further discussion on the request. Today I'm going to ask Mr. Grady, what cases do we have to remove from our consent agenda today? Because we have people sign up to speak.
Okay, so it would appear that, given the criteria you just specified, cases number 1, 2, and 3 can be removed as the only speakers are in favor and the staff has recommended approval.
Excuse me for interrupting. I didn't get in time for the list to be set, but I'm in opposition of those, so I'd like to ask if I may speak.
Let's pass the list to staff and have staff have her sign up.
So in that case, I believe we do not have any cases that can be removed from the consent, or that can stay on the consent agenda, rather.
Right.
As they all either have staff disapproval or opponents signed up to speak.
Thank you, Commissioner Grady. So we're going to go ahead and the chair makes a motion to approve the consent agenda, which only has the road names remaining on it. Unless there's an objection, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. I hear a second from Commissioner Durant. Can we take a vote, please, staff?
All right, those in favor of the consent agenda, Yonke,
Aye.
Johnson, Metz,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Sirks,
Aye.
Grady.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, staff. With that said, we will move on to our map amendments today, which is item 5B. Now, I take note that the first 3 cases are all in very close proximity to one another. So wondering if it pleases the commission if we can learn about these collectively. And maybe hear from the speakers. Or we can at least hear from map amendments 1 and 2, since it's the same applicant. And then we can hear from 3 separately, however you guys want to handle it. Just as a planning commission, it seems like we should plan for this area together, right? So I'm going to say, any questions based off what I'm saying? No? Okay. And then take it away, staff.
So we're hearing these individually or kind of as a whole?
I'd like to hear it as a whole, if possible. Then we can hear from the public as a whole.
Okay, yes, from a staff standpoint, although all of our recommendations were for approval for all of these, and I want to make sure I point out again, when we say staff's recommendations, it is again a reminder from staff of what the comprehensive plan, which was recommended by the planning commission, ultimately adopted by council, recommends for these areas. So it's not as our personal recommendation, but it's again just a reminder to all, this is what the comprehensive plan calls for this area. But it would be our request that we make sure that we hear these individually. And the main reason behind that is because if you look at the discussion from staff, that we made certain points about each individual request that probably should be taken into consideration for you as we go along.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, staff. Let's hear from our agenda 5B1 then, case number 23-027MA.
Okay. As you stated, this is case 23-027MA. The applicant is Mark Meadows. The location is 1000 Killian Loop. The applicant is requesting to rezone 4.27 acres from rural, which is RU, to general commercial, GC. Again, staff recommends approval of this request. It fits all of the objectives and the guidelines of the comprehensive plan for an economic parcel located within the Economic Development Center corridor, future land use designation. Thus, we recommended approval. So, as I requested just a few moments ago, we asked to kind of look at these separately because there are slight differences that we, as a staff, looked at also. But again, our recommendations are always going to be based on a comp plan, but there are things that we will point out as we look at this. So this particular parcel, as we discussed, while it does fit within the Economic Development Center corridor, one of the reasons that we recommend, another reason why as a staff that, we thought that it was in line with the comprehensive plan is its location. And that particular section is commercial. As you can see, there's the entrance to the Walmart and that slim parcel that is between where the road is that will go into the Walmart. Tom, if you could just kind of point to it. That one was recently rezoned by Richland County to general commercial also. So it's abutting a general commercial piece. Also, one of the things that we did take into consideration is that it's also where Killian Road goes from a 4-lane road down to a 2-lane road. So that's kind of, we look for areas where there's something that kind of clearly delineates where, our opinion of the zoning should begin and end. In this particular case, we were looking at where the road changes again from 4 to 2 lanes. So again, staff's recommendation was for approval.
Thank you, staff. You just mentioned the parcel next to it was changed by Richland County. Could you
Yes,
elaborate on that?
It
Did
did.
council do that? Did we?
Yes, it did. I'm sorry. After a recommendation from the planning commission, council voted to amend that parcel to general commercial.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? Hearing none, I'm going to go to Commissioner Grady to ask for any names signed up to speak.
Yes, we have 2 applicants signed up to speak in favor of this rezoning request. The first of those is the applicant, Mark Meadows.
Okay, Mr. Meadows, please come on down and state your name and address. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. As stated, my name is Mark Meadows. I live at 239 Killian Road, Columbia, South Carolina. I've owned land and lived in this area for most of the past 65 years. Those of us who have lived in that area have seen a lot of change. When I-77 was built 40 plus years ago, we knew it was going to change the area, and it has definitely changed the area. My sister and I are now on the 1011, this piece of property. I'm here today to request that 1011 loop be rezoned from RU to general commercial. This property is approximately 1,000 feet from I-77 and about 100 feet from the Walmart entrance, this property on the east side of me was recently zoned general commercial. Last March, I received map amendment notices for proposed rezoning. You know, they're looking at the rewrite now. As part of that proposed rezoning at that time, this was recommended that land be zoned general commercial. The 2015 code shows that this property is in the Economic Development Center quarter. I've applied to have this property rezoned from RU to general commercial. And I appreciate you guys doing the job that you do and let me speak in front of you. I'm requesting that you vote in my favor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We also have, speaking in favor, Shirley Gaines.
Come on down, Ms. Shirley.
Excuse me, I don't want to speak.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and we have one speaker signed up to speak against this change, and that is Grace Dow.
Gina.
Gina.
Come on down, Gina. State your name and address.
Okay, so my name is Gina Dow, and I own property at 1107 Killian Loop, 108 Lib Lucas, and 112 Lib Lucas. So all of this property that we're considering is right on top of my real estate. We've been in this building, in this room, 3 or 4 times at least already. We actually took Gretchen on a 2-hour tour of the devastation in our area, and I was informed that these would all be deferred until further investigation was done on the already devastated area, washed out roads, ditches. This commercial development is flooding my home, the one I currently live in. And so it has been stated to me, I don't even know why we're here, to be honest, because all of this is supposed to be deferred until the DOT and the county takes further look into all of this commercial development that is happening that is destroying my property and all of us that live down Lib Lucas, Governor's Pond, and Killian Loop. And if you look at where this property is, it's literally on top of a home. All of this property is on top of homes. This Kelly Spears property is literally across a single-lane dirt road where 2 houses that I own is located, literally in front of my houses. So, and I know Mr. Price is aware, from my understanding, of all this conversation about deferring all this until we do a much better job of road maintenance. We currently have cones and caution tape on Governor's Pond Road where most of the road is completely gone so that those families don't fall off of the road when they drive in and out of the property. So my question would be, I don't even know why we're here talking about it if it's being deferred. And it just keeps coming back up and coming back up while I'm being told it's being deferred until we come up with a solution for the infrastructure. That's where I'm at with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have no further speakers
No one
registered.
else? We already said we weren't going to have a back and forth conversation, so we have to keep it down back there. Staff, we did have other properties that were deferred today, but today, since we're looking at them individually, we are talking specifically about 1000 Killian Loop, which is on the northeast side of Killian Loop and Killian Road. Commissioners, do we have any questions, comments, discussion? This is now on the floor.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Grady.
Thank you. I would like for staff to provide comment on what we just heard from the most recent speaker as to your sense of where this stands and perhaps your perspective on the chronology here.
Yes, sir. All right, so I'm going to go back to, as the planning commission, you're an appointed body by council to hear amendments, especially to chapter 26 regarding mapping, and to make a recommendation to council. Once it gets to council, council often will decide if they want to defer a matter take action on it. They could also deny. But there are a number of directions that they can take as far as each matter comes before them. For this particular area, and I do know that there's certain other parcels that fall within District 7, which is under Councilwoman Barron, there are things that she wants to look at. So going forward, she may decide that she wants to defer for specific reasons, but that in no way implies that you as the planning commission should not go forward with whatever recommendations that you want to make for this matter. The decision to defer will come from council at that point.
Thank you, staff. Yes, we are a recommending body to our county council. Commissioners, any further discussion on this?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
just on
Commissioner Durant.
this particular parcel has not been deferred. Is that correct?
It was scheduled to come, I think last month, September. But it was deferred. Staff took a look at this and we contacted the applicant. After discussing with them, he decided to defer till this month. So it was deferred, but it was not, again, county council does not dictate when a matter should be deferred by the planning commission. Any deferrals that you receive will either be done by the applicant or administratively by the zoning administrator. But for this particular case, it's scheduled as normal, it was just deferred previously, again, by the request of the applicant in September. And it might have been July, if I'm correct, but it was deferred by the applicant. In this case, it's before you properly.
Thank you, staff. And as a follow-up, that means signs have been posted on this property and the public's been notified that we were gonna have a meeting.
Yes.
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Taylor.
a question for staff. If approved and there are DOT assessments or any kind of planning from the county that needs to be done, approval doesn't suspend any kind of studies that may still need to be done, correct?
No, sir, you're correct. When it comes, what you have before you is a change of zoning. Even with the current zoning, there are certain uses that could take place on this property that still would be under the review of, whether it be the staff's review or the Richland County staff for development of the site, along with working with DHEC, DOT, and other agencies to make sure hopefully there's no potential impact on adjacent properties.
Staff, further discussion or any motions from the commissioners?
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Durant.
Question for staff. Mr. Price, your last statement mentioned in further study on the property.
That's what you were speaking to.
All right. Your last statement was that studies may occur to try to show whether rezoning of this property would have any impact on adjacent properties.
No, I'm sorry, let me clarify that.
Okay.
The rezoning is separate from the development of the site. What I was referring to is any site is developed, they're required to provide site plans for staff to review, which would include engineer plans and other development plans that will go along with it. That is something that we would then review whenever the site's developed, regardless of the zoning, because each zoning designation does allow a certain number of uses. So before anything is developed on this site, a review of how it's being developed will take place.
Sure.
Commissioner Sirks.
A question for staff. Mr. Price, kind of going on that last point, our mission as the planning council is not to look at or make decisions based on potential future uses. It's to, our decision should be based on what's compatible with the comprehensive plan and the surrounding area. And in related to that, with regard to future uses, there is no guarantee as to what any future use should be, so should not really factor into our decision that whatever the future use is. Our decision should be based on those criteria that are in our mission statement, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sirks. Further discussion? How do you feel about this, Commissioner Johnson?
You know what I'm debating, don't you? The challenge, I think, is that the president that spoke and raised the issues of the impact off-site raises valid issues. The problem is, I think that they're outside the purview of our ability to act. I mean, in terms, we've had one situation where, that I remember in my tenure, where floodplain issues in the future development came up as an issue, but those were existing, that we could see floodplain issues, not infrastructure issue. I don't see that we really have a lot of flexibility in that standpoint, other than that, again, at either the council level or somewhere else in the regulatory process, that somebody can intervene and address that. One just nitpicky question, just to confirm. Based on the adjoining property being rezoned, it's just a fact that our maps are just old, correct? The map in our packet still shows.
Yes,
the-
yeah, I apologize, and we can get that. You're correct, that the showing is rural, but it should be red to reflect general commercial. However, on page 9 under the zoning history,
Yes,
it does state that, that parcel was rezoned, so I apologize. We will get that corrected, as it goes forward to council.
Chairman, I guess just, I mean, in terms of legal basis, I mean, it's a valid request, and with the adjoining being GC and across the street being GC, again, I would just hope that some other regulatory bodies can address the off-site implications, but I would advance a motion that case 23027 be advanced to County Council with a recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. With that motion, is there a second?
Second.
Heard a couple seconds there. I feel like Sirks got to it first. Commissioner Sirks, second. Staff, can you go ahead and take a vote, please?
All right, those in favor of the motion for approval of case 23-027 MA. Grady,
Aye.
Sirks,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye. Thank you,
Motion
staff.
passes.
That takes property at 11,000 Killian Loop for approval to County Council. Recommendation from the Plan Commission. They will still have their public hearing meeting, I think, on the 4th Tuesday of the month.
Yes, sir. I do believe now, again, as Ms. Dow raised, the point she raised it, I do know the council representative for this area, Councilwoman Barron, more than likely will want to defer this matter to look at this wholly You know, I think as you were discussing earlier, but I believe that she will want to look at this matter wholly, so there's a chance that this won't appear at the fourth Tuesday of October on the zoning public hearing, maybe at a later time when she's ready to take the matter up.
Thank you, Ms. Price. We can go ahead and move on now to item B2, case number 23-029MA.
All right, again, the next item is, for you, is case 23-029MA. The applicant is Mark Meadows, and that Mr. Meadows is requesting to rezone 3 parcels which comprise 3 acres along Killian Road from rural to general commercial. Again, this falls within the economic development center corridor future land use designation. And again, for this, staff did recommend approval. Going back to what we stated earlier, you know, ideally, you will look for something to delineate where a transition should occur from a commercial to maybe another least intense zoning. However, one of the things that we did take into consideration that while at this point you can see where Killian Road does start to narrow, start to become a 2-lane road, the 2 parcels adjacent to it on the left or west of it, as you can see, what Mr. DeLage is showing in red, were previously rezoned to commercial. And so for that reason, we do support the recommendations of the comprehensive plan for this request.
Thank you, staff. Questions from commissioners? I hear Commissioner Johnson.
I guess question for staff or our fellow commission members is, again, it does have adjacent zoning next door and across the street, which would support this, but my question is, given that the transition in the road infrastructure there, that there got to be some serious concerns as to what point in the process would we have when staff approves a potential site plan on this, that there's some requirements for deceleration lanes or what have you going in there, because that road narrow substantially. That size parcel as a GC is a little bit of a concern.
Yes, well, I can just, you know, kind of getting away from the actual map amendment part of this. During development process, applicants are required to submit to DOT, and staff will discuss with DOT certain issues that we may see. And if DOT feels that particular uses, or as the site is developed, require certain improvements along that area, those will be a requirement for them in order to get approval. So those things are taken into consideration.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff yet?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Durant.
Staff. Mr. Price, if you look at the map, you can see the trend here is that whole corridor is going general commercial. My question is, on the south side of the current property, there has been development. There's I think there's a Tractor Supply, and then in further east, there's a large car dealership. Do we know whether those developments have caused any impact to the surrounding adjacent properties? That was a concern listed in the last property.
At this time, I cannot confirm whether they have or not.
Okay, thank you, staff. If there's no other questions, we can move on to our speakers. Commissioner Grady, do we have people signed up to speak? Do we have an applicant?
We do, yes. The applicant, again, is Mark Meadows, if you're interested in speaking again.
Come on down, Mr. Meadows. 2 minutes again. Please state your name and address just one more time for our staff. Thank you.
All right, again, my name is Mark Meadows, and I live at 239 Killian Road. like I said previously to the other piece of property, I've, lived in this area for the better part of 65 years. And all the things I said about the other property are, apply to this property also, except that this one is different. The west side of me is already zoned general commercial, and Tractor Supply their driveway is almost directly across the road from my pieces of property also. And one of those I'm representing my sister-in-law, so it's across from our property. I think that's about the main difference. I know there's been a lot of concern about flooding, and we're going to be talking with Ms. Barron also about, what she's found concerning that area and all. This is a November the 6th, 2019 FEMA flood map for the area that shows the lady that spoke for me, her house. It shows my house and all of our pieces of property, if anybody would want to look at that closer. And again, I think they've mentioned that this area, from some of the map rewrite material, is designated Economic Development Center Corridor, in that area. So I would just like to be able to, hopefully not negatively impact any of my neighbors with what I would like to do, but I would, I feel that this would be the highest and best use of my property at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We also have Kelly Spears.
My name's Kelly Spears. I'm at 318 Tillwater Bend in Lexington, South Carolina. And I'm actually here representing my dad. He's James McKenzie, and he's the sole owner of 4 tracts of land right in the middle of Mr. Meadows, several of his tracts. His 2 pieces are actually already general commercial. They are tax map numbers. I don't have actually I do, but they're the 2 GCs that are already currently there in between, which would be right next to Mr. Meadows. My dad is, he's blind, he's got dementia, and he's in assisted living. I'm his power of attorney, so I'm here speaking on his behalf because he can't, in support of Mr. Meadows and his efforts to get his property general commercial. It's raw land, so I'm not sure how it's, right now it's really not, I don't know if it's impacting any kind of issues. No one's brought to my attention. In fact, the land seems to be elevated, so I haven't seen any water runoff or anything like that. Mr. Meadows said that he hasn't seen anything like that. In fact, because of that being a concern, I passed out today, and we hired an engineer to come and look and do an evaluation of the area, and basically just said, what Mr. Johnson was saying, that anytime any kind of developments moves forward in Richland County, there's a whole list of things that has to be done, but with DOT and everything that it involves. So I'm just here representing him in support of Mr. Meadows. Thank you.
And again, we have Gina Dow.
Calm down.
Okay, again, I'm Gina Dow, 1107 Killian Loop, and other properties. One of the things I want to say is I keep hearing everybody in the room talk about how when a person develops a piece of property that guidelines are followed to develop that piece of property. But what we fail to realize is there are adjacent properties that suffer when you pour a 5-acre piece of asphalt in front of my house. So as Ms. Spears just stated, it's elevated, and the Killian Road land is elevated substantially higher than all of the rest of us that live downstream. In the 2015 flood that happened, we have a 17-acre lake in our backyard that Mr. Meadows also lives on, that the dam was ruptured, took out Killian Road, crossed the street, and went to the pond that is located at 248 Killian Road, which happens to be my grandmother, who's been there 55 years. So when we talked about Tractor Supply and its detriment to surrounding areas, my grandmother's driveway stays washed out and stays flooded because of Tractor Supply. She is literally beside it. To the right side of Tractor Supply is Elizabeth Davis. That's my grandmother. So yes, it does affect. It affects us all. And as I've spoken with Gretchen, in our opinion, as the residents that live below the lower level of all this property, the only way to correct this problem is to put back Crescent Lake. Put the dam back in its original structure, because that's what retained the water. Now we have water going from Walmart, Killian Road, down my road, into my yard. I have ditches. I've literally had to put ditches in on both sides of my yard that divert the water from Killian Loop and Killian Road through my property to an empty lake in my backyard. This is how bad this is. So as I advised to Gretchen, it would be great for you guys to come out and visit and drive around. When I say the devastation that is below that property, it's unbelievable how it's affected our property. And Ms. Spears also doesn't let everybody know that the property that her father owns, that they're due to inherit from, is being conjoined with what Mr. Meadows has to form what we've been told to be a condominium complex. So big infrastructure, big impact on all of us people. And I've been there 55 years on that road of my life.
Thank you. Thank you. Staff, can we turn on the floodplain layer and get a date on that again? Was this before or after the flood? After? I mean before. Because that's what the lake looked like. I have been through the area.
So are we?
It's an image service. This is my world of mapping. It probably takes a minute to load. Let me zoom out.
I was just asking Mr. DeLage to pull that up, but he can answer your question while that's populating.
And I just wanted to get a little bit of clarity as far as on the question. Are you talking about when was the effective date of the map, or?
For the data layers, just when we're looking at the floodplain data set, is that from before the flood or after?
So the maps became effective on December 21, 2017. It may not have taken into account the actual blowing out of the dam, even though the map did come out afterwards. I'd have to dig into it a little bit more, but it's still showing a wide floodway, where, typically when those maps are revised after a new study's done, kind of similar to Lake Elizabeth, you'll see kind of a shrinking of the floodplain if it's no longer retaining water. But I'm guessing just based off of what I see here.
Commissioner Grady, do you have anyone else signed up to speak?
No, not on this case.
Commissioners, on the floor for discussion, questions? Any possible motions as well? That could turn into discussions. Might start calling on people.
Mr. Chair,
Yes. Commissioner Taylor, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I recommend that we send map amendment 23-029MA per staff recommendation to approval, to county council for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. With that, do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Metz. Staff, can you please take a vote? This would be for approval.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before the vote, I just,
Sure.
one quick comment to the public. I mean, I think our hands are tied in the same fashion as the previous case. So from a rationale, I just, on the record.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Durant?
comment for, I understand the constraints that we are living with what the commission can do. And I know we aren't to make any decisions based on what kind of future development may occur on these properties. But I'd hate to see us start something that turns out bad down the line by okaying this, and then development occurs and substantial impact to the adjacent properties do occur. I understand that's actually irrelevant to our vote, but I didn't want to make that comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Durant. Appreciate the comments. Any other final thoughts before a vote? I'm open for it. We're a planning commission. I'd like to hear from our commissioners.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Sirks.
one question for staff before we take a vote, because I think it may also be something to, may or may not be something to consider in one of the next applications. In this staff report, under desired development pattern, there's a couple references to, single-use employment developments located along major roads. And in the next sentence, secondary commercial and residential use should be located along primary road corridors, proximate to employment centers. I guess, how much weight should we give that, and what is there a specific criteria that defines what a primary road corridor is and what a major road is? Because that seems to be one of the issues here with this intersection, specifically where the road goes from what looks like 4 lanes to 2.
All right, I'm a tag team on your, to give you an answer. So you got a question about the roads and their classification, so I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. DeLage, and then I'll come back and answer a little further your question.
So the roads are defined by their functional class by DOT. Typically, what's considered a principal road or an arterial road would kind of meet that definition for basically a primary road.
Does that kind of answer your question? I mean, if not, we can expound upon it, I'm sure.
I mean, for my own purposes, I guess, is between major roads and primary roads, I think I get, the gist of what a primary road is and looks like, but is there some kind of a little more certain or clear definition in terms of, I don't know, number of lanes or, cars per hour, that type of thing?
Sure. So while a road can be designated in cases like this to where you have a change from like a 4-lane divided into a 2-lane, sometimes that can change the class, but they have 2-lane primary arterials and 2-lane minor arterials. The big key is in the number of cars that they can service, so the level of service, the number for it, and depending on what that number is for the type of road. Like an A for a 2-lane might have 70,000 less cars than say a C for a 2-lane for that particular class. And actually, we can kind of take a look at what DOT has it to see if it does change there.
As you're pulling that up, staff, just want to make note, I'm looking at my phone because I'm looking at the street view. And I'm curious also what Killian Loop is labeled as. And I also see that it's currently no outlet. So it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, so the Killian Road, as it narrows, it still stays a minor arterial. It just goes from 4 lanes to 2. And then it looks like they have Killian Road listed as a local. And as Mr. Smith just pointed out, as you cross the interstate interchange and get it over to the other side, it actually changes again to a principal arterial as well. So there's a couple of changes on this section of Killian Road.
Your thoughts, Commissioner? Are you answering your question?
My understanding was Mr. Price was going to take the second part of my two-pronged question, which was what, if any, consideration do we give that?
Well, I mean, I think whenever we're looking at the comprehensive plan, especially when, you know, as a staff, when we're preparing the agenda for the planning commission, we really do go back and we look at, I'm gonna borrow your book for a second here. We do look at the land use and character for that particular designation. We look at the desired development pattern for that designation. And another thing we look at is the recommended land uses for that area. So we take all of that into consideration. Again, anytime we talk about designation within the comprehensive plan, y'all have heard me say this 100 times. If you've been here for a while, it's broadly painted. I mean, we didn't go down a particular line and say it should stop here. It's broadly painted. So one of the things that as a planning commission you do take into consideration is when you look at this area, say, well, is that still appropriate? It may fall within that designation, but you are saying, does the request help support the desired development pattern and the recommended land uses of that district? And if it does, you know, a lot of times you may support one way, and if it doesn't, you can, I mean, your motion can be made in that manner, so you should take those into consideration.
Thank you.
Commissioners, unless there's any other discussion, we do have a motion on the floor for approval. With the second. I'll take in mind our decision, our conversations here as we make our decision. So if we're comfortable, I'd like to go ahead and make that vote since we have the motion on the floor. Staff, whenever you're ready.
I apologize. Okay, so we have a motion for the approval of case 23-029 MA. Those in favor of that motion? A yes would be in support of it. Taylor?
Aye.
Metz?
Aye.
Serks?
Aye.
Durant?
Aye.
Grady?
Aye.
Johnson? Yonke?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes.
It's a recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission going to County Council for their next zoning public hearing, whenever it's deferred or not. That agenda will be posted on the website, and you can talk to planning staff if you have any questions. We're going to go ahead and move on to case number 3. Case number 23-032MA.
Okay. Next item, case 23-032MA. The applicant is Kelly Spears. The applicant is requesting to rezone 0.8 acres along off of Killian Road from rural to general commercial. Again, staff recommends approval of this just based on the parcel's location within the Economic Development Center corridor for future land use. However, and this is one of the reasons why we wanted to separate all of these cases and not necessarily look at them as one, but if you will take note within the conclusion within your package, staff does note that, however, while the two parcels directly east of the subject site were rezoned to GC under case 19-0220 MA, the subject site for the proposed map amendment can be viewed as an encroachment, which will allow for incompatible land uses with the existing residential uses nearby. So, you kind of go back a little bit with, Mr. Sertz, I think as one of your questions, yeah, I mean, it's for us, we try to stay very consistent with the comp plan. This is what the comp plan says, this is what it says. However, when it gets to the planning commission and of course ultimately the county council, I think y'all do have a lot more discretion as what you're looking at. You're looking at the comp plan, but you're also looking at the character of the area and the appropriateness of that zoning there more so than what staff does.
Thank you, staff. Mr. Grady, do we have anyone sign up to speak?
We do. First would be the applicant, Kelly Spears.
Kelly Spears, 318 Tillwater Bend, Lexington, South Carolina. So we decided to bring this one to get rezoned general commercial because it has a road off of Killian Road that actually gives direct access. It's the only access to Mr. Meadows' property, the house that he lives on. It's an easement that's been there for like 100 years, he said. In addition to that tract giving him access off of Killian Road to his property, it also owns the Governor's Pond Road, the access to, it also owns Governor's Pond Road, the road that goes back there off of Killian Road. So it just kind of made sense to kind of keep that in line with Mr. Meadows' property that he lives on, and then the two GCs, and then of course the other three that he is trying to get GC'd. It just kind of made sense, and so yeah, really, it's just it says in the staff like their conclusion that there's not access, but that's actually there is access. There's a road right there off of Killian Road to get to his property. So it's his driveway. And Mr. Meadows, I think he's going to talk and he can kind of speak more on that.
Thank you.
As previously noted, we have Mark Meadows here to speak.
Hello again.
Name and address
Okay.
once again. Thank
My
you.
name is Mark Meadows. I live at 239 Killian Road. And as Ms. Spears had said, her piece of property that we're looking at here, my main driveway, I do have access from Governor's Pond Road here and also from Lib Lucas Road on the back. So my piece of property actually has 3 different points of access. And in one of the prior meetings that we've had that you guys approved, that I had applied for my land back here because I'm surrounded on 2 sides by general commercial, and the lake is gone. I've talked to the owner, and he says it's not coming back. He's not spending a dime on it the last time I talked to him. The lake's gone. That was the main reason why I had originally bought my piece of property. The lake is now grown up. You're welcome to come out and look at my piece of property. no other piece of property can see my piece of property here or Kelly's piece of property because of the way it's grown up. But anyway, what she's talking about is the main road goes right down this side of her piece of property to my piece of property. That was the original road. Governor's Pond was not here. Governor's Pond Road came here and went down this way. It was moved in the 70s, sometime in the 70s, 80s, I think. But that was the original main road that accessed Killian Road that goes back over 120 years, possibly as much as 140 years. That was a logging road when timber was part of the reason that area was developed out there. Was timber was a big thing of it. But anyway, I support Ms. Spears' request to have that piece on general commercial. It's not, I don't see where it's suitable for any residential, but anyway, I support her.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Grady, anyone else?
Yes, again, Gina Dow.
Come on down, Ms. Dow.
Gina Dow, 1107. I feel like this is a theater show. It's okay. I've said everything I have to say. And Gretchen Barron has already messaged me that it will all be deferred. So I'm good. Thank y'all for doing what y'all do.
Thank you. Commissioners, this is now on the floor for discussion, questions from staff. Let's talk about this one. I'll say my opinion for this one is it's at the edge of the development. The staff did mention some encroachment on the back neighborhood. Should development stop at some point? That's my thought.
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Durant.
This one looks obviously different from the previous parcels we've looked at. It's where it's not adjacent to any of the GC. I do agree with staff in their last paragraph where they said could be encroachment and allow for incompatible land uses as it would be if we approve this, or if it went forward and got approved by county council, it would be a GC parcel located right in the middle of the RUs. So it seems like it would be out of place.
Thank you, Commissioner Durant. Comments? Anyone else?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, staff.
And I apologize. I thought we had, I'm pretty sure I had this information. I still have my other book in front of me. And maybe the applicant, well, not Mr. Maybe Mr. Meadows can answer this, but the parcel that's actually north of this site, Mr. DeLage, that particular parcel did come before the planning commission in June. But I don't believe that county council has taken action on this at this time for a rezoning request to commercial.
It came before us just this past June.
Yes.
And what was our recommendation?
Your recommendation, the recommendation was for approval, 80, excuse me.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Durant.
Mr. Price, which parcel are we talking about that was approved back in June?
That, the one that Mr. DeLage has just clicked on, the one that's highlighted.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Grady.
I would move that we recommend case 23-032 MA to County Council with a recommendation for approval for the reasons staff specified.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Metz. No other discussion? Staff, go ahead and take a vote.
Okay, those in favor of the motion, those in favor of the motion for approval of case 23-032 MA, a yes would be in agreement with the request. Grady,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Serks,
Aye.
Johnson, Taylor,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Yonke.
No.
All right, that motion passes.
Thank you, staff. That goes as a recommendation of approval to County Council for their next meeting that they're going to take that up. So with cases 4 and 5 deferred, that moves us to number 6. We are out of the Killian corridor. Case number 23-037.
Again, we're here for item, case 23-037 MA. The applicant is Ernesto Martinez. The location is at 226 Jamaica Street. The applicant is requesting to rezone a little less than half an acre on parcel, to be exact, 0.46 acres, from general commercial to residential multifamily medium density. Staff recommends, based on the comprehensive plan, disapproval of this request, as it does not meet the desired location recommendations of the designation. According to the neighborhood medium density designation, multifamily development should occur near activity centers and within priority investment areas, which this particular site is, does not meet either of those requirements or recommendations. However, the proposed rezoning would be consistent with the current land uses, development pattern, and current zoning districts located within the area. But again, based solely on the comprehensive plan, staff recommends disapproval.
Staff, do we have any questions for staff, commissioners? Hearing none. Commissioner Grady, do we have anyone sign up to speak?
We do. So the first person signed up to speak is the applicant, Ernesto Martinez.
Please come on down. You have 2 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Good afternoon. I just would like to get that commercial zone to be residential.
Just for the record, state your name, please,
My name is Ernesto Martinez.
and your address.
1724 Swanee Drive, that's where I live at. Okay? So I just want that to become residential. Mainly that is a residential area in that neighborhood. I'm probably the only business on that road. So taking that into consideration, I appreciate if you let me have my residential status. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, and we also have, you'll have to excuse me, I can't read the first name, but the last name is Peach.
I feel like I'm Nance Peach. I also live at 1724 Sewanee Drive. If you do not approve this property as residential, they'll never get rid of me because I actually live with my sister and brother-in-law and was planning on securing a mortgage and renovating this little place to be my home. So, thank you for listening.
You.
Have no other residents registered to speak.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
Just, would this not be considered a down zone?
Yes, it would.
Staff, could you explain that, please?
Okay.
Are you saying they can do what they want to do without a zoning change?
No, what I'm saying is that from, if you're talking about from an intensity standpoint, the residential
intense.
multifamily designation is not as intense with the allowances within that designation as the general commercial.
Thank you.
So,
Yes, Commissioner Taylor.
Question for staff. On page 47, I want to make sure I'm understanding the future land use.
okay, yes, sir, okay.
That's highlighted for Jamaica Street. If I'm looking at the legend properly, is that neighborhood medium density? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, staff.
I have a follow-up question, if I may.
Yes, Commissioner Grady.
So, all right, so this is a request for medium-density multifamily housing, correct?
Correct.
And the future land use is neighborhood medium density, correct?
Correct.
So am I to understand that the comprehensive plan recommends against placing medium-density zoning in a medium-density neighborhood future land use? I think you got at this earlier, but A, that just sounds odd. And B, I'm curious, is it explicitly mentioned in the plan, the section about not placing, only placing multifamily housing in activity centers or priority investment areas? And does that, in your view, cut against sort of the discussion of housing in the comprehensive plan? I'd be interested in your thoughts.
Yes. Okay, so within the, you're correct, that this does fall within just by the name of the designation, neighborhood medium density, seem to fit. Ideally, within most of these areas would be more single-family, detached developments. However, as you just stated, and according to the comp plan, multifamily, which I guess is deemed a little more higher in, I guess, intensity, I guess, from a development standpoint, is actually designed to be located more at your intersections and away from areas, as stated in here, within your PIO, priority investment areas, and near activity centers. That's, those are the recommendations of the comprehensive plan. I don't know if I disagree with, I think what you're stating, but according to, I guess that's one of the things within our plans, and maybe our zonings is where we do have a separation often from our single-family designations to our multifamily type uses.
Yeah, I think that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Grady and staff. Other discussion? Any motions?
Chairman, I think we move case 23037 MA forward to County Council with a recommendation for approval.
It's a motion of approval from Commissioner Johnson. Since we're going against staff/comp plan, I think we have to give a reason.
Based on the existing land use map, it appears to be consistent with, looking at page 46, the immediately adjacent parcels, that it would line that up with what's existing there, and that it is a less intensive, it's currently zoned.
Okay. With that motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Commissioner Grady and Commissioner Grant. With the motion on the floor and a second, staff, can you please take a vote?
All right, so we have a motion for the approval of case 23-037 MA. So a yes would be in support of the motion for approval. Those in favor? Johnson, Metz,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Zerks,
Aye.
Grady,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes.
Thank you, staff. That's a recommendation to county council for approval. They will take this up at their next zoning public hearing meeting. Are free to move on to number 7, case number 23-038.
Yes, so I guess before we
Yes.
proceed to the next case, just kind of going back to something that was brought up by Mr. Grady, we will begin shortly. Going back, looking at our comprehensive plan, and so these type of issues that you do come across, or some questions that you have, as you look at many things within the comp plan, because I think of all of our meetings, this is probably one that we really, we're looking at the comp plan a lot more so than, I think almost at any time. But if you would make sure that you kind of keep a note of those, we as a staff will also keep note of this, to see if we can address those as we go into the rewrite for the code. Comprehensive plan, excuse me.
Comp plan. Thank you, staff.
All right. So our next item is case 23-038 MA. The applicant is Richard Romero. The applicant is requesting to is that the same? Yeah, 0.46 acres from along 2900 Aintree Drive from residential single-family medium density to neighborhood commercial. This particular location falls within our neighborhood medium density future land use designation. As the plan recommends a desired development pattern that mixes residential uses and densities within neighborhood. The proposed rezoning would not be consistent with the current land uses, development pattern, and current zoning districts located within the area. For these reasons, staff recommends disapproval for the neighborhood commercial request.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Hearing none. Commissioner Grady? Anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, we have one person signed up to speak in opposition, Robert O'Brien.
O'Brien? No applicant here today.
Not
Is
that
that
they've
correct?
signed up, no.
Okay. Come on down, sir. Thank you. 2 minutes and name and address, please.
Robert O'Brien, 9604 Highgate Road. I'm the president of our neighborhood association, which represents 600 families in that parcel we're talking about. Our neighborhood, like you've heard, is single-family units, and this position here had been brought up to county council before. I don't know how many years ago it exactly was, but it was denied there. It was denied then, and we're asking that you deny it again, which I see the staff has already recommended disapprove. And that's it. We appreciate what you do for us.
Thank you, sir. Hey, commissioners, this is now open on the floor for discussion or questions. Staff, could you go back to the interactive map and zoom out a bit? And just I'll see the rest of the area. Thank you. I have a question for staff. Any input from the schools? Since it's right next to a school.
No, sir.
Okay.
But for the record, and that question comes up a lot. All of the school districts are part of our distribution list for all agendas and packages that go out for the planning commission and county council. So they are aware of certain requests, but we have not received any input from them, whether it be either questions, support, or opposition to the request.
Thank you, staff. Any commissioners, discussion, motions?
So,
Yes.
again, as you and I talked about before, we'll kind of chime in a little bit more sometimes, kind of tell you, kind of put you into the world of staff maybe. Tommy, can you zoom in a little bit? So one of the things that we were looking at on this particular parcel is, and I think it's kind of important, is access. So, again, according to the comprehensive plan, the recommendation should be for disapproval. So we're sticking with that. But it's interesting when you look at a parcel like this, if the access was coming strictly off of Alpine Road, then, maybe commercial might be appropriate, especially when you consider what is next to and what is across the street. However, looking at this parcel, as the access will come in off of Aintree Drive, which is, clearly a residential entrance, I think that's another reason why we may have looked at, again, for staff, as we were looking at this, that we agreed with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan.
Staff. Would you clarify the piece that's to the west of it? It's a cremation services. Is that RM according to our map on page 54?
So that should be it's a split zoning. It's just showing one of the primary. The front portion of it is general commercial, and then back near the very end of the building where the cursor is, that going backwards is our MMD. It's just an issue basically with being able to show the primary. It when it was split, and the assessors, like you'll notice on there, it has the, let's see here, sorry, the zoom is blocking it. RMHD is the primary zoning district, but it in fact does have two zoning districts for that parcel.
Thank you. What are our thoughts on this one, commissioners?
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Durant.
Note that I'm in agreement with staff's conclusion that the proposed rezoning would not be consistent with the current land uses development pattern in current zoning districts located within the area.
Thank you, Commissioner Durant. Would you like to phrase that as a motion?
I was just thinking about that.
Okay.
I move that we forward RC Project 23-038 MA to County Council with a recommendation of disapproval.
Thank you, Commissioner Durant. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Sirks. With that motion on the floor, staff, can you please take a vote?
Excuse me, the motion is for disapproval of case 23-038 MA. A yes vote is in agreement with the motion for disapproval. Those in favor, Taylor,
Aye.
Sirks,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Johnson, Durant,
Aye.
Grady,
No.
Yonke.
No.
All right, and motion passes.
Thank you, staff. That goes as a recommendation of disapproval for County Council's next zoning public hearing. We can now move on to case number 8, which is case number 23-039.
Here.
Yes, Commissioner Taylor? No worries.
I do have a question on the I'm fine with the last vote, but I did still have a question. And it slipped my mind and came back. I apologize. What determines whether there is no access road? So what determines whether that parcel is Aintree versus Alpine?
You know,
We can come back if we need
no,
to.
I'm kind of looking at it. All of the other meetings are addressing coordinator stays around for a while, and this time she left. But I'm sure, I think the reason for that particular address, because it kind of goes along with that kind of that pattern that you see along Aintree, and it was probably viewed as being a future residential lot along with the other parcels that going around Aintree versus development coming off of Alpine.
Okay, because I know one of the explanations was that there was no access from Alpine that kind of guided the decision. And since I don't see access from either direction, I was just curious what makes it an Aintree property versus Alpine, so.
Correct. I mean, that, that can actually, let's say that parcel did get developed for a non-residential use. They would have to apply with DOT for an encroachment permit, and if the encroachment permit came off of Alpine, the address would change.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you for explaining that, staff. We are ready whenever you are for case number 8 on our agenda.
My next item is case 23-039 MA. The applicant is Alonza Haynes Jr. The applicant is requesting to rezone 2.69 acres located along 1849 Willoughby Street from rural to office and institutional. Sorry. Staff recommends disapproval of this map amendment as it's not consistent with the objectives outlined in the comprehensive plan for a neighborhood medium-density future land use designation. The proposed zoning would not be consistent with the recommendations where non-residential development may be considered for location along main road corridors and within a contextually appropriate distance from the intersection of a primary arterial. Additionally, the uses allowed under the OI district would be out of character with the surrounding residential uses and could be considered an encroachment of incompatible land uses. Again, for those reasons, staff recommends disapproval.
Thank you, staff. Any questions for staff? I had a question. So this property looks like it's on like a cul-de-sac or end of a street. The business, there is a business on the street. That pink shade
It
on our map.
looks like it. As you can see, it dead ends
Yes.
at the very end, and that becomes a private drive or private entrance for the parcel kind of northwest of it, of the subject site.
Okay. Mr. Grady, anybody sign up to speak on this?
We do not have any speakers signed up.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that then, commissioners, this is open on the floor for discussion, motions. My question again is just reiterate staff with me, is that's a private street, Willoughby?
No, sir. What is it? State County. Willoughby Street's a DOT road.
It appears on the map that a lot of this area is landlocked. Is that true? It's rural. We got I-77 to the east of it. South of it, we have cul-de-sacs that don't lead to this property. Willoughby is the only way in, correct?
For those parcels, that seems to be correct, yes, sir.
Staff, is there any combined zoning going on with the parcel north of this one? Because I just see a bright pink, and this does look separate to me than the neighborhood around it.
Office and institution, I believe that's owned by, it's part of Blue Cross Blue Shield, part of the operations, or at least it was. I believe that's the piece that you're referring to?
And this map is yellow.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure if the Google is accurate or not, but it says currently closed.
Yes.
Okay. And that answered my questions, commissioners. I'll give the floor back to you. Questions, comments, motions? Not all get so quiet with me on that last case for the day.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Sirks?
Just looking at the criteria that we're supposed to consider, I don't see that this request meets any of the criteria that would be needed to forward it to county council for approval, and therefore I make a motion to forward this request to county council with a recommendation of disapproval.
Thank you, Commissioner Sirks. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Durant. Thank you. With that, staff, would you take a vote?
All right, we have a motion for disapproval of case 23-039MA. A yes vote is in support of the motion for denial of the request. Those in favor, Sirks,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Durant,
Aye.
Johnson, Metz,
Aye.
Grady,
Aye.
Yonke.
Aye. Thank you, staff. Just to reiterate, that goes as a disapproval recommendation to county council for their next zoning public hearing. That closes out number 5 on our agenda. We'll go ahead and move on to number 6, which is my chairman's report. Just a big thank you again, commissioners, for all your time and effort you invest each month in this commission, traveling and reviewing cases, participating and having thorough discussions like today. Thank you, guys. On September 19th, I was asked to appear before the council's Rules and Appointments Committee as my first 4-year term on this commission expired September 17th. So fingers crossed as they take that to full council. I hope to continue to serve. I look forward to the implementation of the Land Development Code the next several weeks, months, the county council's looking at first and second readings of the map. Staff, please correct me if I'm wrong. The staff, the text amendments, everything we worked very hard on last year, is finally coming to them. So if you have time, I encourage you to come to these chambers on a Tuesday at 6 p.m. and support the county council. These dates are Tuesday, October 17th. No, tomorrow night's the first one, October 3rd. The first reading of our text amendments will be tomorrow night. Then they're going to have a work session next Tuesday, October 17th. So 2 weeks. And then a public hearing on our text amendments. Hear from the public again, as we did that. The same. That's Tuesday, November 7th. And then a final reading on text amendments will be November 14th. That's how their calendar appears now. That is subject to change. And that's all I have for my chairman's report. So we can move on to number 7, planning director's report. Mr. Price?
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Johnson. Gotcha.
Real quickly, I appreciate you giving that update because I literally just a few minutes ago was trying to remember the sequence after we made the last presentation and things were held up and moving forward to council in terms of those amendments or approvals. But one logistical question, and I don't want to get us into a prolonged conversation on this evening, but at the committee level meeting that some of us attended, there was considerable discussion in terms of the way that the ledger was presented and some changes in redaction of some of those items. So is that approval going as it was presented to that last committee, or are there additional modifications that have been made as a part of that?
I would say as we presented it to them, Mr. Jensen and I, the assistant county administrator, we made sure that we went through the YouTube, the staff notes, everything was as clear as possible of what our text amendments were. And now county council has their duty to go through them line by line, pick and choose. They can take all of it, they can take some of it. They're finally going to be getting in the weeds of our text amendments. Does that answer your question? Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Price, your report?
Typically, in your agenda, you will find the essentially what actions council took on at their last zoning public hearing or at the time of publication. We were right at that deadline, trying to get this out, so that was not included, but that will be presented to you in October. So you should have, November. Excuse me. You should have both the September and October actions of council. One of the things I wanted to also talk about, again, as we're starting to, I guess, kind of look a little more in depthly at the comprehensive plan and its recommendations and what exactly is kind of requesting. And I can imagine, and this is just kind of my view, I asked Mr. DeLage to keep this particular zoning map that we have up on the screen, because I'm sure sometimes when you look at these and you see the surrounding area and now you see a bunch of that green, and I know that makes it a little more difficult because that's all rural. And I think one of the things to look at is, well, is that area really rural? And I think one of the things as we go forward, as we start looking at comprehensive plan, making updates, is how do we get these parcels in the county to kind of come in compliance in some manners with the comprehensive plan? Because, if there are large tracts of land, somebody's going to come and ask them to rezone it. But you may have areas such as this. Unless one person comes in and says, I want to do something with this property, it's probably going to sit there as rural, as really, you could argue, a non-compliant zoning within that particular designation. So I think, those are other things that we'll probably start thinking about. There's that question of, should we be a little more proactive with zoning? If you see one particular parcel and you think that that's appropriate, should we also look at the others? I mean, that's a question that comes up. But just looking at different ways to try to get parcels more in compliant. Because if not, I think a lot of times when you look at certain requests that come in, it may be appropriate, but it also doesn't match what is surrounding it also. So, it's kind of just a thought. So again, as we go forward, a lot of things that, I know as a staff that we talk about, and the idea is what can we do right, to actually, we have a comp plan, but can we get the county in some ways to kind of help mirror what the comp plan is requesting? That was it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Price. How many times we're looking at map amendments and things don't line up with the comp plan? This is our chance to look at that again.
Question, Mr.
Yes, Commissioner
Price,
Durant.
What you just said, I take it being proactive about these different parcels to make them conform to the comprehensive plan. Is that irrespective of the property owner's intentions or desires?
Of course, let's just say if a motion was made, and a motion to amend property can come in four forms, either from the county administrator, county council, the planning director, or the planning commission. So of course, even if a motion is made, a notification will be provided to all of the property owners about that change, that potential change, and they will have a chance to chime in on, with their opposition or support of the request. Yeah. And again, touching on this, we for years, a lot of times if you do see a case and you feel that it doesn't match the comprehensive plan, again, we should be, eventually looking at what changes to the comp plan. Because again, as I stated earlier, everything's broadly identified. But if you start to find particular areas that don't fit with what those recommendations of how the comprehensive plan designates those areas, then maybe we should look back and start making amendments to the comprehensive plan. That way we still have people keep coming in asking for the same request over and over to keep getting the same answer. So we can clearly identify that we feel that this is the most appropriate zoning for this area, designation for this area, and then they can kind of follow pattern, that request as y'all have, made those changes.
Thank you, Bryce. Else for your plan director's report?
No, sir.
Okay. With that, we move on to number 8, other items for discussion. This is an open section in our agenda for commissioners. Anything we should be talking about? As I wrapped up my first term, your time up here does go really fast. So I like that we're up here serving our county and trying to help with the time that we have. If we have nothing else, then number 9, motion for adjournment. Do I have a motion? So moved. All right, we'll do it with the raising of hands. All right, raise your hands if you want to adjourn. Thank you, commissioners. Second? I'll second it. All right, second. Thank you.